Racetracks are places of triumph and tragedy, the smell of petrol, the roar of engines, and the cheering crowds. But what happens when the lights go out and the tracks are abandoned? Well, some circuits seem not only deserted, but also cursed. Whispering voices, shadows in the fog, and engines starting without a driver. Here are 10 spookiest and scariest abandoned racetracks in Europe. Number 10. Morano Po in Italy. The Autodromo di Morano sul Po is also known as the Circuit de Casale Monferrato, due to its proximity to the town of Casale Monferrato. This racetrack is based in Piedmont in Italy, and the circuit measures 2.460 metres in length and 11 metres in width, featuring 6 right-handers and 2 left-hand turns. It officially opened in 1973 and saw intensive use during the 1970s, hosting events such as the Italian Formula 3 and the Challenge Ford Escort Mexico. However, the circuit faced growing problems, including noise complaints from locals and declining spectator numbers. These issues ultimately led to its closure in 1977. Attempts to reopen in 1980 failed due to financial struggles, leaving the circuit to fall into disrepair. In the following years, it became a popular destination for urban explorers, including Herman, who visited the abandoned track back in 2017 with 2 Italian friends. In 2022, the Italian company Dimsport, part of the Holden Group, took over the site with plans for redevelopment. Their goal is to revitalise the area with projects such as an agricultural centre with training facilities, tourist accommodation, and activities that align with their test laboratory. Although no known ghost stories or paranormal activity have been reported at this circuit, its abandoned state exudes an undeniably eerie atmosphere. Number 9. The Leyland Test Track in England. Hidden in England lies the Leyland Test Track, an abandoned testing circuit once used by British Leyland. Rumour has it that a test driver died on the brake test section. This was a straight stretch, accessible via an exit ramp from the Oval, where drivers were required to hit the brakes at full speed to test out new vehicles. However, during one of these tests, tragedy struck. Herman Liesemeijer, founder of the Circuits of the Past website and this YouTube channel, visited the abandoned Leyland test track 3 times so far. During his visits, he's noticed an especially unsettling atmosphere around the dilapidated garage on this site. Although he is completely alone, the surroundings felt strange and ominous. Upon further investigation, he found no specific reports of paranormal activity on the test track itself. However, the surrounding area of Leyland has a history of ghostly encounters. There are reports of a white lady appearing at former bleaching works, as well as accounts of mysterious noises and shadowy figures elsewhere in the town. Whilst these stories are not directly linked to the test track, they contribute to the eerie aura around this region. Number 8. Nivelles in Belgium. The Nivelles circuit opened in 1971 as a safer alternative to the dangerous and somewhat haunted Spa-Francorchamps. It hosted the Belgian Grand Prix in 1972 and 74, but after financial struggles was forced to close in 1981. Following its closure, the site fell into disrepair and became a hotspot for illegal activity. On weekends, local youths would gather to hold unauthorised races on the abandoned circuit. These gatherings sometimes attracted hundreds of spectators, and even an ice cream vendor took the opportunity to sell his products. However, these illegal races also resulted in serious accidents, including one fatal accident in which a competitor was thrown from his vehicle. Beyond illegal racing, the circuit grounds became a site for other illicit activities. Burnt-out stolen cars were regularly found, and the remaining structures were heavily vandalised. Police attempted to deter the illegal racing by patrolling the circuit in the opposite direction of traffic, But those measures were only a temporary effective measure, and by the following weekends the racing was usually resuming. Speculation exists that the abandoned circuit may be linked to the notorious gang the Nivelles, a criminal group responsible for a series of violent robberies in Belgium in the 1980s. However, there isn't any concrete evidence that supports this connection. Now, as for ghostly activity, no paranormal reports have been associated so far with Nivelles-Baulers. Its history is mainly marked by human activity, both legal and illegal, rather than those supernatural occurrences. Number 7. Reims-Gueux in France. This former Grand Prix circuit in the Champagne region is often mentioned in paranormal stories. Visitors report strange lights flickering in the abandoned pit buildings and an eerie, unsettling sensation when walking around the old straight. Some tourists even claim to have seen a misty apparition of a man in an old racing suit, presumably the ghost of a driver who died here in the 50s or 60s. Another eerie rumour suggests that the radio equipment in this area sometimes malfunctions without explanation, as if the circuit itself still radiates an inexplicable energy. In 2020, our founder Herman conducted a nighttime reconnaissance of the pit buildings and the surrounding track. After taking photos with his smartphone at the roadside memorial alongside the circuit, something strange happened. From that moment on, he was unable to take a clear photo. Even the next day, in broad daylight, all the pictures appeared foggy and distorted. It wasn't until he arrived in Nivelles later that day that his phone returned back to normal. Now, was this a random glitch? Or was there a ghost in the matrix inside Herman's smartphone? Number 6. Sitges-Terramar in Spain. On the sun-drenched coast of Catalonia near Barcelona lies one of Europe's most mysterious abandoned circuits. Sitges-Terramar, built in 1922, this 2-kilometre concrete oval is one of the oldest of its kind. With its steeply banked corners, it provides an awe-inspiring yet unforgiving setting for early motorsport racing. However, Sitges-Terramar was soon abandoned. Financial problems, unpaid prize money, and a lack of further investment meant that major races simply never returned. The circuit faded into obscurity, but not entirely. Rumours persist that Sitges-Terramar is not completely deserted. Some claim that the ghosts of Alberto Divo, the driver who won the first and only Grand Prix there in 1923, still lingers. Divo himself didn't die on the track, but some believe his presence remains as an energetic imprint of the circuit's brief moment of glory. Other stories tell of a shadowy figure in the vintage racing attire wandering around the track, especially on misty evenings or under the glow of a full moon. A local legend speaks of a driver who never received his prize money, and in fury swore to race there forever. At night, people claim to hear the ghostly roar of an engine, emerging from nowhere and fading just as suddenly. Another chilling tale tells of a spectral figure that appears seated in the stands, only to vanish the moment anyone attempts to approach him. Despite these ghostly legends, Sitges-Terramar has stood the test of time. Thanks to its durable concrete construction, the oval remains in surprisingly good condition. Today, the intersection serves as a horse racing track, an odd contrast when we think of all the race cars that thundered around it. Now you've got horses kicking up dust instead. In recent years, there have been plans to transform Sitges-Terramar into a luxury automotive resort, with manufacturers using its banked corners to showcase new models. Though the project remains in limbo, the track has occasionally hosted test drives and exclusive events. But its future remains uncertain. Will Sitges-Terramar once again play a role in the automotive world, or will it forever remain a place where echoes of the past and perhaps ghosts of long-forgotten racers are only its current inhabitants? Number 5. Charade, Clermont-Ferrand in France. Hidden among the volcanic hills in central France lies Charade, once known as the French Nürburgring. This fully fledged street circuit was infamous for its treacherous layout, narrow roads, extreme elevation changes, and minimal runoff areas, which made it one of the most dangerous tracks in motorsport history. According to local legend, visitors sometimes hear phantom voices echoing through the hills, their origins unknown. Others report an unshakable chill creeping up their spine, particularly at certain corners where fatal crashes once occurred. The most notorious sections of this circuit include Virage de Thades, a tight corner following a high-speed section. Virage de Thades was unforgiving. It was here during the 1972 French Grand Prix that Helmut Marko was struck in the eye by a rock kicked up by Emerson Fittipaldi's car, and that ended his Formula One career. Grave Noir. This fast long corner was particularly lethal in the 1960s when Formula One cars became faster, but the circuit still had no runoff area to accommodate them. In 1959, motorcycle racer Georges Monret lost his life here. Le Belvedere. A tricky blind bend following a steep descent, many drivers lost control here, especially in wet conditions. With little room for error, once a crash began, it was nearly impossible to avoid disaster. Le Petit Pont. A narrow section where speed remains dangerously high, during the 1960s multiple motorcycle races met their fate here, victims of the circuit's merciless design. Some visitors report an oppressive sensation here near the sites of the fatal crashes, whilst others feel sudden chills at the Virage de Thades or witnessing an unpleasant mist over the old high-speed sections. The eeriest claim? Locals sometimes hear the distant wail of engines racing, echoes of the past that refuse to fade. Today, Charade still remains as a permanent circuit, incorporating part of the original track with a newer connection. Most of the old layout remains public road, with small abandoned sections hidden between the modern and the newer circuits and roads. Number 4. Monza Oval in Italy. The legendary Monza Oval, with its terrifyingly steep banked curves, became too dangerous for modern racing, but some claim it was never truly abandoned. One of the most famous stories is that of Alberto Ascari, the two-time Formula One world champion who tragically lost his life here in Monza in 1955. He crashed at the section where the Variante Ascari now stands. Witnesses say they've seen a shadowy figure in a blue racing overall, the colour Ascari famously wore, near the old banked turns, especially at dusk or early morning. Visitors and photographers exploring the abandoned banking often report hearing strange noises. Some claim to hear the distant roar of engines at night, as if phantom races are still taking place. Others describe faint whispers or voices, particularly in the tunnels beneath the track. The Monza Oval remained in use during the 1960s for races, like the Monza 1000 km, but its dangerously steep banking saw multiple fatal crashes. According to local legend, ghostly figures sometimes still appear in the stands, as though spectators from the past still linger. Another eerie tale speaks of spectral race cars tearing through the steep curves after dark. Security guards and night watchmen have reported flashes of light and moving shadows, as if unseen cars are still hurtling around the track too. This aligns with the broader motorsport folklore that claims circuits with a history of deadly crashes become haunted by the spirits of the lost drivers. Even today, Monza's old banking exudes an eerie atmosphere. The combination of history, tragedy and decay makes it a breeding ground for ghost stories and paranormal experiences alike. Number 3. The Nürburgring in Germany. Known as the Green Hell, the Nürburgring claimed the lives of many racers, including Karel Godin, De Beaufort and Peter Collins. But the Südschleife is infamous not just for its danger, but also for its ghosts. Near the treacherous Flugplatz corner, some drivers and marshals have reported seeing a shadowy figure appearing briefly at the trackside before vanishing. Others speak of cars mysteriously losing their headlights momentarily, or of hearing distant screams from a surrounding wood with no one in sight. Impossible. The Bergwerk section is rumoured to be cursed. Some drivers describe a sudden chill here, said to be a lingering presence of Karel Godin de Beaufort, who died in a crash at this very spot in 1964. It's also the place where Niki Lauda had his horror crash too. Even spookier is the Südschleife, the abandoned section of the Nürburgring. Since its closure, reports have emerged of eerie sensations, hikers feeling watched, glimpses of unexplained shadows, and an unmistakable sound of an old racing car echoing through the desolate landscape. Overgrown by nature, the Südschleife feels more isolated than the bustling Nordschleife, and we think that amplifies the unsettling aura too. Number 2, Spa-Francorchamps in Belgium. The old Spa-Francorchamps circuit, with its perilous high-speed bends, has claimed countless lives over the years, especially at the notorious Master Kink. Legends persist of strange myths, ghostly figures, and unexplained sounds that haunt the historic track. The Master Kink was one of the deadliest sections of the old circuit, where multiple drivers met horrific ends. Some say that those who drive through this area at night see shadowy figures standing at the roadside, or even ghostly apparitions suddenly appearing in their path before vanishing. At Bournonville, eerie sounds have been reported. On misty mornings or at dusk, residents and passerbys claim to hear the wailing of engines and screeching tyres, as if an invisible race from the past is still unfolding. Drivers navigating the old section near Malmedy often describe a peculiar sensation, the feeling of being watched, as if someone is standing at the roadside, but when they turn to look, there's no one there. Many believe this is linked to the numerous fatal crashes that occurred here during the 50s and 60s. A chilling local tale tells of a driver travelling through the old circuit on a foggy evening. Up ahead, he saw an old racing car with a driver clad in vintage leather gear. As he tried to get closer, the car just simply disappeared into thin air. Spa-Francorchamps' history is both rich and tragic. The old high-speed circuit claimed many lives, and over the years it's developed an almost mythical reputation. Whether the ghost stories are real or not, one thing is for certain: the abandoned sections of Spa have an atmosphere that sends chills down your spine. And that's for the even most sceptical visitors. Number 1. Brooklands, England. Our ghost tour ends at Brooklands, the world's first purpose-built racing circuit, which opened in 1907. Located in Surrey in England, it was an engineering marvel with high concrete banked curves and lightning-fast layout. Legendary races were held here and speed records were shattered, but Brooklands also has a dark side. With its high speed and minimal safety measures, the circuit saw numerous fatal accidents. Both drivers and spectators lost their lives here, and some say they've never really truly left. Today, though much of the old track is in ruins, the site is now actually a museum. Visitors report strange occurrences there though, with eerie sounds and the unmistakable feeling of being watched. One of the Brooklands' most famous ghost stories is that of Percy Lambert, a British racing driver who made history on the 15th of February 1913 by becoming the first person to drive at 200 km an hour on the circuit. Lambert was a fan favourite, known for his skill and determination, but he also had made a solemn promise to his fiancée after setting his record: he would retire from racing. However, when a rival surpassed his record, Lambert simply couldn't resist the urge to reclaim his title. On the 31st of October 1913, he made another attempt, but tragedy struck. A tyre burst at full speed, sending his car tumbling. Lambert was thrown from the wreckage and killed on impact. Since then, his presence has been felt on the circuit. Night watchmen and museum visitors report hearing footsteps on the abandoned sections of the track, but no one's there. Others claim to have seen a shadowy figure in a grey racing suit wandering near the ruins, especially on misty nights. Some even say they can hear the roar of the unseen engine, as if Lambert is still chasing that final reclamation of his record. Another eerie legend centres around Test Hill, a steep incline once used to test the power and torque of early cars. Over the years, multiple accidents occurred here, and some visitors report an invisible force holding them back as if they're trying to walk up the hill. Many believe this is the spirit of a nameless test driver who died on the slope, warning others of the dangers. Others report sudden cold chills and unexpected fog forming from out of nowhere. Brooklands' towered bank curves were revolutionary in the early 20th century, but now they stand partly in ruins, yet they hold an unsettling energy. Some visitors report electronic malfunctions near the old bends, with lights flickering or cameras shutting off unexpectedly. Others have felt a sudden icy gust of wind, even on hot summer days, as if an invisible car was speeding past. At dusk, mystery figures have been spotted walking around the bends, only for them to vanish upon closer inspection. Brooklands wasn't just a racetrack, it was also a crucial military infield. During both World Wars, the site housed the Vickers aircraft factory, where bombers like the Wellington were built. And this wartime past certainly adds another layer to Brooklands' paranormal reputation. One of the most chilling stories is that of a ghostly RAF pilot. According to legend, in the 1940s, a young test pilot took off in a newly built aircraft. Shortly after taking off, the engine failed. Despite his best efforts to regain control, the plane crashed near the old banked track, killing him in the burning wreckage. His name remains unknown, but many believe he never left. Staff at the Brooklands Museum report sightings of a man in RAF uniform wandering near the old hangars or standing along the abandoned runway as if he was still waiting for his final flight. Visitors near the crash often describe an intense sudden chill, as if momentarily being transported back in time. Others report hearing heavy boots pacing across the tarmac, only to find that there's no one there. Some night watchmen claim to have witnessed something even stranger. On still, cloudless evenings, a low droning engine noise can sometimes be heard, an old warplane preparing for takeoff perhaps. A few even claim to have seen a shadowy aircraft in the sky, but when they look again, there's nothing there. Inside the hangars, where wartime aircraft were once built and repaired, unusual activity has been reported. Unexplained knocks and taps as if mechanics are still working on the planes. Flashes of light and shadowy figures glimpsed at just in the corner of your eye. A dense, icy atmosphere, particularly in the hangar where the doomed pilot once worked on his final aircraft. Today, Brooklands is a museum and industrial estate site. Racing has long since ended, but the mystique certainly still remains. Visitors continue to report strange noises, chilling gusts of wind, and the uncanny sense that they're not alone. Put simply, as long as these legends are still told, the spirit of Brooklands may never truly disappear. Perhaps one day, if you visit, you might hear the faint growl of an old racing car in the distance, or maybe, just maybe, it's Percy Lambert chasing his record. Some circuits may be abandoned, but their stories live on. Is it just history, or is something unexplainable happening? Have you ever had a strange experience at an abandoned racetrack? Let us know down in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more exciting, thrilling, and at this time slightly spooky content. If you want more legendary circuits with a haunted past, pop over to circuitsthepast.com and download your free ebook around 7 abandoned tracks that you can visit legally, even if they might come with a little extra surprise hiding in the wings. Take care of yourselves and maybe keep the light on.